Hi, I'm Tove Grimstad, and I will present the work Suspended Circles, Soma Designing a Musical Instrument on behalf of my co-author Fdili Alaoui and me. This work, at the intersection of musical practice and HCI, is grounded in the idea that music can be understood as movement. From a phenomenological perspective, how our bodies move in the world define how we experience and act on the world. And from the field of musicology, the theory embodied music cognition describes this movement-music relationship. Now, unlike acoustic instruments that have fixed natural action-sound relationships, digital musical instruments have flexible and malleable relationships that then offer us an opportunity as designers to create new embodied experiences depending on our choice of action-sound mappings, materials, and interface design. I will describe the design process of a digital musical instrument called Suspended Circles, where our goal was to create an experience of music as movement for those interacting with the instrument. Our work builds upon theories of embodiment in HCI and Soma design in particular, where the designer's first-person perspective and experience and reflections of engaging in a somatic practice forms a central holding point throughout the design process. From the designers, in this case, my bodily practice, experiential qualities are articulated and serve as a red thread to inform the design process and the aesthetics of the interaction. In this project, we were looking into the possibilities for a body-centered design process to open up for the cultivation of musical sensitivities. And as a way to practically explore music as movement, we turned to the somatic practice, Dalcroze eurhythmics. I reached out to eurhythmics practitioners at a local music college and participated in classes throughout the fall of 2020. So, Dalcroze eurhythmics is a pedagogical approach of teaching music through movement. Eurhythmics was started around the beginning of the 20th century by Émile-Jacques Dalcroze, who was teaching at the Music Conservatory in Geneva. He found that his students were lacking musicality despite their solid theoretical knowledge, and developed Dalcroze eurhythmics as a response to this. It's based on the idea that music is perceived, performed, and understood through movement. Now, along with embodied music cognition and Soma design, eurhythmics also opposes the tradition of body-mind separation, which is the prevailing school of thought in the typical score-based Western music education, and perhaps in Western society in general. Many exercises in the eurhythmics classes provided me with examples of unfamiliar and disruptive musical experiences. As I was learning music through movement, and also learned about the music theory of these movements, I started building up a repertoire of gestures that I could later revisit and use to inform my design choices. The relationship between the body, rhythm, and repetition, and how the musical pulse can be displaced around the body really stood out to me. I began to also see how my listening to music and playing music had developed since I started practicing eurhythmics. I could listen to or play a piece of music that I had known for many years, but suddenly feel new sensations of, for example, dissonance in specific body parts. Based on this sensitization process, we reached the experiential qualities, rhythm, and repetition. And guided by these, we explored design materials to generate a variety of somatomusical interactions. I started exploring conductive materials and textile surfaces and used a capacitive touch sensor to make textile sensor interfaces. Together with a microcontroller, a simple sound synthesis, and the touch sensor interfaces, I explored different materials using sound as an output, for example squeezing or pulling, resulting in gradually increasing pitch. We then refined our interactions through continued engagement with the body and built a large tangible musical instrument that we called Suspended Circles. We introduced the instrument to 2 groups of musicians, one with Dalcroze eurhythmics training and one without. These sessions were recorded by video and analyzed through thematic analysis to capture common patterns of interaction with the instrument. We observed different approaches to musical meaning-making and movement patterns among musicians with different somatomusical backgrounds. In the first context, with the Dalcroze musicians, we observed the practitioners engaging in collaborative, choreographed bodily explorations of the instrument. They collectively invented performative and ritualistic mise-en-scène where the instrument seemed like an object of devotion or a temple. They mostly paid attention to their bodies and the choreographed movements, more so than the sound that they produced. In the second context, with musicians without Dalcroze training, we observed how they paid active attention to the sound they produced when interacting with the instrument, more than their bodies. We observed the musicians molding and stretching their bodies to create sounds and explore the sonic possibilities of the instrument, their bodies serving as a vessel for playing music. For more details on the findings of our sharing the instrument, I invite you to read the paper. We observed how the Dalcroze musicians primarily attended to their body, while the non-Dalcroze musicians attended to the sound while interacting with the instrument. The Dalcroze musicians used more ancillary movements and gestures, treating the instrument as a temple and performing ritualistic movements to come in contact with it. The non-Dalcroze musicians used movements that served almost exclusively to search for sound, manipulating the instrument and adjusting their body to it. We observed how the instrument design accommodated different bodies and somatic experiences, and the differences in interaction patterns reveal 2 distinct approaches to music making with a new and unfamiliar interface. We recognize the value in both approaches and consider these differences as a way for us to learn about how the design was accommodated by various practices and bodies. The instrument was created by myself, based on my experiences with eurhythmics, and the design process also taught me about my own musical body, where I gained a deeper and more tacitly grounded understanding of the relationship between movement and music. However, being a trace of my musicianship, the instrument was also found to be difficult to manage by other practitioners due to its lack of robustness and idiosyncratic build. Overall, I wish to highlight the exploratory and transformative nature of creating new instrument for musical expression, and how engaging with Dalcroze eurhythmics as a defamiliarization practice provided for a generative and reflexive design resource for somatomusical interactions in a Soma design process. Thank you for listening.